This is stuff.
U.S. Army property.
The building on your right was original to the Lackawanna Railroad. Built the locomotives in this facility up until 1950. Then it became an Army ammunition plant, and it still is today, run by General Dynamics. They make the big shells for the military cannons, and that's why you see all the security around the place. Was an entrance to the working anthracite coal mine here at the office.
Oh, here it is.
Yeah.
This gold.
Right there. That's where the Ben used to enter. Very old mine, closed in 1900. The railroad we're traveling on, the Laurel Line, was built in 1903. This was our #1 industry. We were one of the richest anthracite coal fields in the world. And our last operating coal mine closed here in 1967. So we do not mine anthracite anymore. The demand simply went away, and that coal mine today is the Lackawanna County Coal Mine Tour up at McDade Park. So if you ever do get a chance to take it, really cool. Yep, great tour.
He wants to go.
And again on your left, very first thing you see is Roaring Brook underneath of us. Yep, there it is, all the way up ahead of us, the Step Falls. That's a 3-story man-made waterfall. It was actually the part of the iron furnace works, which are downstream of us. Flood protection and also trying to control the brook for power. Up above that would be Nayak Park. That's our big park here in the city. And that bridge in the foreground up above is the brand new Harrison Avenue Bridge. That opened about 3 years ago. Beautiful scenic spot. Well, directly in front of us is the tunnel.
Oh, we get to go to the
There it is, yep, a mile.
the waterfall, see?
81 is on our right, Davis Street. And we have one more crossing now. Glenmore Boulevard's coming up. This crossing has 8 lights.
Hear you.
They were much worse early on.
I was going to say, these are luxury seats.
You ready?
Yes.
Ready. All right, let's go down in the mine then. Heading down with 13.
That's not right. Oh dear. Hold on.
Wow. Well, today it's 11.
At this point, I have the precious little head clearance. right, give me a moment here. We're going to unload you one door at a time. That coal, it comes out and hangs out at the roof. In the right proportion to oxygen, incredibly explosive. If there is an explosion or a fire underground here, you would get what they called afterdamping, carbon monoxide, another suffocant. All these are colorless, odorless, very difficult to detect. Until the year 1815, an Englishman by the name of Davy invented the safety lamp. And yes, we are going to detect methane with an open flame, which appears to be counterintuitive. But Mr. Davy's lamp has been on all day. It's actually, warm at best. There are 2 layers of a wire mesh screen in there. Works a little bit like a heat sink. Mr. Davy found out combustible gases on the other side of that screen would not ignite because the screen worked as a bit of heat sink. It would be too cool for ignition. Miners were told this coal would come out of here at about the speed of a bullet. They were told to go through 2 90-degree turns. It could ricochet through 1, not through 2 turns. So, our miner here now, who's the only one allowed to use explosives, if you can hold on to there for me, please. What we're going to do is look to your left, yell fire in the hole, to the right, fire in the hole, and then press it.
Okay. Fire in the hole. Fire in the hole.
I thought you caught that from where especially sometimes little kids too will just like, oh my God. And the kid who pressed the plunger, you'll see his eyes get really, really big. Once that is done and the coal is removed from the breast, the miner can go home. The operators didn't care for it, but it was kind of tradition. You could go home. The miner's laborer would load all the coal into the coal car. That's the price he paid to learn the miner's job.
Was there a salary difference between, the person that could go home? Did he earn more money?
The miner, yes, and only the miner could operate the explosives, or was supposed to.
Okay.
Again, the laborer loaded it up in order to learn your job. That's the price you pay, like any other apprentice.
So the credit of the tonnage would go to the miner itself.
Yes,
Even though he went home.
Actually, here we have the mule. Over the centuries, lots of different animals were tried in the mines. Horses, ponies, oxen, goats. In England, for a very short period of time, women and girls pulling the coal cars. That didn't go over big. The mule turned out to be the perfect animal. Smaller than a horse, can get into tighter spaces, pound for pound stronger, more disease resistant. They say you can teach a mule its job in 2 to 3 days. They were brought down here about 3 to 4 years old.
Okay, good morning once again, everybody, and welcome aboard our East Stroudsburg excursion. We're about to get ready on our way to East Stroudsburg, or begin our trip. Once again, for those of you that are new on board, I'll give a safety briefing real quick. For the duration of the trip, I'm going to ask you to please keep your seats. If you do need to use the restroom, please ask your car host which direction or which side of the car the restroom is open, so you can use either one. And there we go on our excursion, or starting our way. So we'll be there in a couple hours, hopefully. Like I said, if you do get up to use the restroom, please be careful walking down the aisle, as the car might be a little unsteady. Secondly, if anybody has their window open, that's perfectly fine. Just make sure that you try and keep everything inside the car at all times. These windows, in some cases, date to the 1920s, which means they can be a bit unsteady. We don't want anybody to get hurt today. I'll be pointing some stuff out on either side of the car throughout our journey to East Stroudsburg today. If you look on the to my right, and I'm facing the rear of the train, the side that has the marketplace at Steamtown, the mall at Steamtown, that is going to be the north side that I'll refer to as the for the duration of the trip. The opposite side facing our yard is the south side of the cars. So I'll be pointing things out as we go along through Scranton and out through the Poconos. So sit back, enjoy the ride, and see you in East Stroudsburg soon in a couple hours. That's going to pretty much follow us up until about Gouldsboro, Pennsylvania. That particular river is known as Roaring Brook. Right now it sits about 70 to 80 feet beneath the tracks, but there was a time in its history that it actually lived up to its name, and it was quite close in flooding up to the tracks that we're sitting on. Not quite that catastrophic, but pretty close. That was about 1955 with two separate hurricanes.
What we saw yesterday.
And here we are on the other side of the tunnels. Now, there were two tunnels bored for the tunnels. The one that we just went through is one that's actually the older one, bored in around 1856. That was first bored by the Lackawanna when it was first opening up the line through the Poconos. The second tunnel on the south side was built or bored in 1905. That particular tunnel was actually taken out of service in 1955 after Hurricane Diane actually flooded most of the region. The flooding and the damage was so significant that the water from the Roaring Brook actually skipped over the bank on the north side and went straight through the tunnels, both of them. So there was some irreversible damage done to the southern portal. And the Lackawanna Railroad decided, rather than restoring it to service, they would rather just take it out of service and put two tracks in as opposed to the three that were originally there. In 1952, the Lackawanna Railroad actually celebrated its 100th birthday, and it wasn't because the Lackawanna Railroad itself was around, but because they actually traced the history of the two companies that merged back in 1852. And that's how they justified being a little bit older than they actually were. forms another part of Scranton water services. Like I said before, the Scranton family had to continue searching Easttown to actually get the resources needed for the city of Scranton. In the process of actually creating Elmhurst Reservoir, it actually flooded the original section of the town of Elmhurst that sat almost immediately underneath where the present-day dam is. that section of the town. That is where the footprint originally existed. 1930 was one of the first settlers coming into this general area around that same year. Eventually, the Lackawanna Railroad, when they actually were chartered and merged, they actually would build their first freight and passenger station around 1856, which would eventually cement Moscow as being a permanent town in the Pocono Mountain region. Towns like Elmhurst, Moscow, Hillsborough, and Tobyhanna all served different purposes. They all had different ways of making or having a community there. But one of the other ways in which they actually served the railroad and served the city of Scranton is they would actually have, a particular Lackawanna Railroad, have a train of accommodation, which would actually get workers from these towns, bring them over to Scranton, and there they would either be working in the mines or in the railroads, and at the end of their shift they would actually be commuting back to their own towns along the line. The train of accommodation lasted pretty much up until about the late 1930s, early 1940s, and then it was eventually phased out. One of the fun facts I always like to mention about Moscow, all of these towns that we're going to be passing through the Poconos have some storied history and some significant fun facts as well. But one of my favorite ones about Moscow is that most of its history was centered around the lumber industry. And so one of their mills actually built lumber and sold it to the Steinway Piano Company. I always find that fact pretty interesting. They decided instead of having to deal with that under constant threat, they would prefer to go right around the mountains. That's why we're on the current section of track. Usually during the fall you get a broader picture, a better picture of where Pocono Tunnel or Paradise Tunnel used to be.
What a grand arrival. Gee, people watching in the signal box. You could have a party in there because there's so much room in it. I can actually see the switch levers in that.
Oh, there's the Pickle Festival. Rolling right in the middle of this Pickle Festival. Right
The festival is right here because in Carbondale I have to go to find a place. So at least with this festival, I don't have to walk around.
We're celebrities.
In fact,
welcome everybody to East Stroudsburg. The station is open for visitors. The switching tower is open to visitors, and of course, please enjoy the Pickle Festival around the tracks. As I said, if you have any questions, feel free to ask one of your car hosts who will help you off the train. Please remember your car number as you reboard later in the day. And like I said, please enjoy. Also, a quick reminder, boarding once again will be at 2:45, train departure at 3 o'clock. So please just remember that so you can be back on.
and after 55 miles. Wow. Wowzers. 55 5 miles in 3 hours. Imagine trying to do this whole way from Scranton.